The green flag is finally back out, and it's time to get back to sports car racing. The premier endurance sports car racing championship in North America features the bravest drivers and the most famous automotive brands, tackling the continent's toughest races. After a nearly 6-month pause in racing, teams and drivers are ready to get back to work, and the fans are ready to get back to the track. It's time for IMSA's return to racing, the WeatherTech 240, this week on IMSA, the road to racing. The world seemingly stopped turning. From kicking off a new year and a new season of racing, everyone came to a full stop. Cities and racetracks would fall silent as stay-at-home orders were put in place, and many of us were left wondering, when would life return to normal, and when would we get back to racing? Following a superb start to what looked to be a promising and thrilling 51st season of IMSA WeatherTech sports car racing at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, a race that featured a little bit of everything and a whole lot of exciting, edge-of-your-seat, fun-to-watch racing at the Daytona International Speedway, IMSA would be forced into a near 6-month shutdown. But thankfully, that break and that pause in racing and in life is coming to an end. The 2020 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship season will return to where it all began back in January before the world stopped turning. But this time, drivers will do battle and showcase some of the world's greatest multi-class endurance sports car racing for only 2 hours and 40 minutes around the track simply known as the world's center of racing. Fans also will not be permitted into the typically easily accessible IMSA garage area, nor the wildly popular fan zone, where drivers and fans become friends each and every season. But despite the long break, and despite the lack of fans in the grandstands, the best and most important news of all is that IMSA racing is back. Driver changes, pit stops, passing in the corners, and drag races down the straightaway are back. And they're all back at Daytona International Speedway. Felipe Nasr, co-driver of the number 31 Cadillac for Whelen Engineering Racing, was unable to compete in the return to IMSA racing at Daytona after the Brazilian racing driver tested positive for COVID-19. The ex-Formula One pilot was slated to share the number 31 Cadillac with Pipo Derani in the 2-hour and 40-minute race at Daytona. The duo had won the 2019 Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring along with their co-driver Eric Curran. But due to Nasr testing positive, he would have to miss the Daytona race and return home to Miami, Florida. Filling in for Nasr at Daytona will be Colombian racer Gabby Chavez. Chavez last competed in IMSA WeatherTech sports car competition with Action Express Racing in the 2008 season finale, Motul Petit Le Mans at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. Nasr, the 2018 series champion in Daytona Prototype International, is scheduled to make his return to competition at the Cadillac Grand Prix of Sebring later on in July. It will be a very different look for Action Express Racing in 2020. Previously a 2-car team, only the number 31 Whelen Engineering Racing Cadillac DPI remains in the stable, with full-season co-drivers Pipo Derani and Felipe Nasr. The number 5 Mustang sampling Cadillac DPI is now operated by JDC Miller Motorsports. With such a shakeup not only within the team, but also the revamped 2020 WeatherTech Sports Car Championship schedule, are there concerns as the season restarts. When racing resumes at Daytona International Speedway, the field will be brought back to the first green flag in 6 months by the 2021 Lexus LC 500, which will serve as the official safety car at the IMSA WeatherTech 240. Lexus's cutting-edge luxury coupe will feature a patriotic red, white, and blue paint scheme to celebrate the return to racing on the 4th of July holiday. Wayne Taylor Konica Minolta Racing and the number 10 Cadillac DPI scored their third Rolex 24 victory in 4 years back in January. This week, the team returns to the site of their season opening victory and looks to continue their streak of podium finishes that began back in October of 29 after a top 3 result at the season-ending race at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Back in January, BMW Team Rahal Letterman Lanigan drivers Jesse Krohn, John Edwards, Chaz Mostert, and Augusto Farfus outlasted and outsmarted the GT Le Mans field as they parked their number 24 BMW M8 GTE in the center of Gatorade Victory Lane at Daytona following the conclusion of the 2020 Rolex 24. The number 25 BMW stood on the podium in 3rd place at the end of the 2019 running of the Motul Petit Le Mans. The pair of BMW M8s head to Daytona International Speedway, ready to pick up where they left off, hopefully on the podium. And speaking of BMW, following his victory in the GT Daytona season finale at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta in 2019, Bill Auberlen is now tied with Scott Pruitt for the most IMSA sanctioned wins. Auberlen will reunite once again with co-driver Robbie Foley as they pilot the number 96 Turner Motorsports BMW M6 as the 51-year-old from California chases sports car glory here in 2020. The sudden stoppage of racing back in March forced a massive rescheduling. Following the completion of only the first round of 2020 in the Rolex 24 at Daytona, the rest of this season will look very, very different. IMSA racing is set to resume back in Daytona Beach this July 4th weekend with the running of the IMSA WeatherTech 240. From there, racers and teams will head to the historic Sebring International Raceway. To kick off the month of August, IMSA will race at a fan favorite, Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, before heading to the Virginia International Raceway on August 23rd. The 6-hour-long endurance race traditionally held at Watkins Glen International in New York will now be run at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta in September. The series then heads to Lexington, Ohio to take on the tricky 13 turns of the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Then, on its traditional weekend, what would normally be the season-ending Motul Petit Le Mans will be run at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, before teams head all the way back to the West Coast to compete at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in California. The 2020 Whirlwind season is scheduled to conclude with the first race that was originally skipped back at the beginning of the COVID pandemic with the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. The 2020 season will resume back where it all began at Daytona. And with only one race in the books so far, the race winners from the Rolex 24 will return as championship point leaders. In DPI, that means leading the chase is the number 10 Wayne Taylor Konica Minolta Cadillac of Ryan Briscoe and Renger van der Zande. In GT Le Mans, Jesse Krohn and John Edwards sit atop the standings in their number 24 BMW Team Rahal Letterman Lanigan entry. And in GT Daytona, leading the fight will be Rolex 24 champions from Paul Miller Racing, Brian Sellers, and Madison Snow. One of the many unique aspects brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic was the heavy immersion into the world of esports racing. With both fans and drivers stuck at home, the desire to watch IMSA racing, as well as to compete in IMSA WeatherTech sports car competition, still burned bright. And so, in order to satisfy both the fans of the world's best endurance sports car racing, as well as give its drivers somewhere to compete, IMSA, along with world-renowned racing simulator developer iRacing, debuted the IMSA iRacing Pro Series. A 6-race series that spanned from late March to early June saw a field of roughly 40 drivers compete in a pro invitational style format. Fans tuned into the online broadcast of the bi-weekly races, which featured the likes of DPI, GT Le Mans, and GT Daytona star drivers going wheel to wheel in abbreviated versions of the real-life IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship events. Fans loved it, drivers battled for race wins, and all felt a bit more normal for just a few hours every other Thursday night.
this is Bruno Spengler, BMW Team RLL driver and IMSA Pro Series iRacing champion. I'm going to introduce you to the track at Daytona. So here we are on the front straight at Daytona, braking for turn 1. Car always very unstable here. Very important to hit the apex early on the gas. Use the track here, all track. And we come to a horseshoe 1. Second gear corner, very slow. Use all the track at the exit. Now we come to a fast left-hander, which is flat. But due to the low downforce, the car moves around quite a bit. Again, second gear corner, that's horseshoe 2. Upshift to 4th. And then 2 downshifts, second gear, very bumpy exit. The car gets always very nervous on the power, but it's super important to be early because on power, because you have a long straight behind. Now we're on NASCAR corner. Big banking. Now we're getting to bus stop. Late brake, just a light brake, 2 downshifts. Early on the power for the long straight. Use all the curbs you can. And now we're gonna get a nice draft. Here we go. And we're already back on start-finish straight. That was a lap of Daytona.
And there it is, the green flag flies and the IMSA WeatherTech 240 is underway. It's been a long break, but we are back, and we're back at the Daytona International Speedway. Great start there for Acura Team Penske driver Helio Castroneves, but he's got the pair of Mazdas right behind him, and then Juan Montoya, Castroneves' teammate in that number 6 Acura DPI. It's going to be Montoya here, it looks like, in Bomarito in the number 55, going door to door to the International Horseshoe as light rooster tails fly up from underneath these cars, rain soaking the Daytona International Speedway a little bit earlier today. We go on board here with the number 55 Mazda Motorsports DPI. That's Bomarito. Now checking in on GT Le Mans competition. That looks like the number 912 Porsche leading the way here. The Corvette C8R, which made its debut here in January back at the Rolex 24, running second in class. And then it's the pair of BMWs from BMW team Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan as they twist their way through the infield here at the Daytona International Speedway. Castroneves, you see your overall leader. Big move right here for second place. That looks like the number 24 BMW making a move down on the inside of Jordan Taylor in the number 3 Corvette C8R. And the number 25 BMW wants to come along for the ride as well. Taylor's going to have to defend as they make their way through the infield here. The number 912 of Vanthor leading the way. Taylor getting past. Now on board with the number 12 Lexus RC racing in GT Daytona competition. That's Frankie Montecalvo we're riding on board with right now as you see the DPI leaders starting to dice through GT Daytona traffic. About an hour and 56 minutes to go. Now we check in with a little bit more GT Daytona competition. It's a pair of Acuras. Mario Farnbacher in that pink Meyer-Shank Racing entry with teammate Alvaro Parente right behind him. The number 57 trying to get around the number 86 as they've got GT Le Mans class leader, the number 911 of Frederick Makovecki right behind. Makovecki trying to go top shelf here to make something happen. He was on the outside, now he's on the inside. Makovecki shoehorning his way down onto the inside of Parente. He's going to get in the middle of these Acuras as they race in GT Daytona competition. Makovecki just wants to get out of there because he knows coming up right behind him, there you see DPI traffic, and the DPI is going to go way high side and is going to clear the number 86 of Farnbacher as well as that number 911 of Makovecki. Everybody gets through cleanly. They head down the back straightaway and get ready for the end of this race. 5 minutes to go. We check in once again with the Porsches chasing down GT Le Mans class leader Antonio Garcia in that number 3 Corvette Racing C8R. But they've all been chasing the Mazdas here today. Less than 2 minutes to go. Harry Tinknell taking over behind the wheel, that number 55 Mazda RT24P. Leading the way, white flag will fly. IMSA's return to racing has only 1 lap left. Tinknell and his teammate Jarvis 11.1 seconds back, with Sebastian Bourdais, the 4-time IndyCar Series champion, running in 3rd. The return to racing is going to belong to the drivers from Mazda, as it's a 1-2 finish. Tinknell brings the number 55 Mazda across the finish line in 1st, and it's going to be a 1-2 as Oliver Jarvis comes home in 2nd place in the number 77. Sebastian Bourdais comes home 3rd. Here's a live look at the battle in GT Le Mans. Antonio Garcia, after taking over from Jordan Taylor, leads the way coming out of the bus stop, down the back straightaway, through the final corners. For the last time, Garcia's got no one around him. The Porsches aren't close enough. The number 3 Corvette C8R, looking perfect under the bright lights at Daytona International Speedway, comes off the high banks, down the short chute, into the tri-oval. Garcia gets the win for Chevrolet, for Corvette, and for the new C8R. IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship standings. DPI class. GT Le Mans. GT Daytona.
The C8R wasn't as strong during 24, so we knew we had the pace as we showed like early stages in the 24, but I mean this time gave the Corvette team and Team Chevy like enough time to think about it, just to fix every single thing we could to improve the car, and I mean I feel so grateful that we were able to fix so many things and be so competitive today. So I mean it's been a long time since the last win. I mean we've been fighting and forever to get this 100 win for Corvette Racing in North America, but I mean so happy that it did finally come. And this morning we got first pole by Oliver Gavin. This afternoon or this night we got the first victory for the C8R. I mean I think that's brilliant. I mean and then sharing the car for the first time as a full time with Jordan. I mean everything went together very like a perfect race. I mean it was a green race. We couldn't do any mistakes, and it did pay out. So I mean super happy. I mean you cannot see my smile underneath this, but I'm like very I mean it's almost getting out of here.
There are a lot of changes and adjustments for everyone here at IMSA's return to racing, and that includes Michelin. This is the first race for Michelin globally since the pandemic began. So Michelin and IMSA have established safety protocols for tire support and operations. Michelin typically assigns an engineer or motorsports tire specialist to each WeatherTech Championship manufacturer to help monitor tire pressures, temperatures, and tire wear, and assist the teams with setups. But today, there are no Michelin engineers permitted in the pit boxes. At Corvette Racing, this will be the first time since they partnered with Michelin back in 2004 that there will not be a Michelin engineer embedded in the Corvette pits. That is a span of 163 IMSA races and includes 76 IMSA GT wins, a strike rate of 47%. This is just the second race for the new mid-engine Corvette C8, and like its predecessor, the C7, all the tire development for the race car and various production models is done exclusively with Michelin. So you can bet that like its rivals BMW and Porsche, the Corvette team will have talked to the Michelin engineers and mapped out a plan. And today, the WeatherTech teams will provide tire data to Michelin instead of the other way around.
July Daytona is going to be very different. First, the track is going to be much harder. We've also changed to a different tire compound, and there's a small aero update that was done to the cars. So we're going to have to come up with something new to win the next one. For a sprint race, usually track position is most important. So we look to who can put the fastest lap in, who's most confident in the car. For an endurance event, qualifying is usually who wants to have the free lap and go the fastest. And then to finish the race, we often pay attention during the race of who can either bring the car home safely or who can be aggressive and attack if necessary.
We in IMSA have multiple classes in one race, and it makes it interesting racing, but also for a driver like me, we are in the faster car, so you always try to judge to lose as least time as you can. Obviously sometimes you can hurt someone else who is also battling in racing for his own class, in a slower class for example, and at that point you need to be very careful, because if you hurt his race, he's gonna get you back at one point. Rivalry, for sure there's a lot of rivals. I mean, Colin Brown is one that I raced a lot against, and on a hard way. He's hard, I'm a tough racer, so sometimes that clashed a little bit, but all good over there, and yeah, ready for more nemesis to make, so we'll see what happens. I kept it nicely, I kept it safe. I gave it to my son, who was just born at that time, and here it is. I have it at home. I gave it to him, so when he's behaving and he is, well, I say 25 years old, he can have it. And we have another one to give away, which is gonna be my daughter, Lola. So if she is behaving, at 25 years old, she can have it.
When IMSA resumes racing, it won't just be the teams and drivers of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship that get to return to the track. Thanks to the hard work of many parties involved, the shutdown in racing will be over soon, and for far more than just the teams and competitors of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Returning to racing also will be the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, with a full slate of Grand Sport and TCR racing scheduled to resume at the Sebring International Raceway weekend in mid-July. The 2020 IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge season had to reschedule 9 race weekends. One of IMSA's single-make series, the Ferrari Challenge, will resume 2020 in a big way when they take to the Grand Prix circuit at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in July. The Italian auto giant racing series has rescheduled many of its event weekends, including their final stop of 2020, the season finale in Abu Dhabi. Porsche GT3 Cup has confirmed that they will start their 2020 season, which was kept from beginning back at St. Petersburg in March, with a doubleheader race weekend in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin at Road America. Road America will also be the season opener for the 2020 Lamborghini Super Trofeo season. The racers of Super Trofeo will battle for 5 weekends before wrapping up this abbreviated season at Sebring in November. The first IMSA sanctioned series to compete in 2020 was the IMSA Prototype Challenge, when they competed in a rain-soaked season opener at the Roar before the 24 test weekend in January. IPC teams will resume racing at Sebring later this July, and will have a tweaked schedule that features 5 races, with the season coming to an end at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta during the Motul Petit Le Mans weekend. That'll do it for this week and racing's return at Daytona. Thanks for watching, and we invite you, as always, to keep up with everything IMSA on and off the track by following IMSA Racing on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Until next time, we'll see you down the road on IMSA, The Road to Racing.